Well, welcome to the Gammon House. This is the Gammon House where a lot of fugitive slaves came into this home, and Sarah and George Gammon brought them in, took care of them, fed them, clothed them, and kept them until they could move on to the next safe house. We know that they were here in this house. Whether they were hid in the basement or in the crawl space or in the attic, we are not sure. But we are sure that if an overseer came to that door, having heard that George and Sarah were conductors on the Underground Railroad, they would have had to either place them somewhere, or they would have had to identify them as a visiting friend or as a member of their family, because George and Sarah were black people, and they had to be very, very careful. They were free blacks. So they really were brave to take the chance of helping people move from safe house to safe house on what is called the Underground Railroad.
The Underground Railroad was neither underground nor a railroad. It got its name because its activities had to be carried out in secret, using darkness or disguise, and because railroad terms were used by those involved with system to describe how it worked. Various routes were lines. Stopping places were called stations. Those who aided along the way were conductors, and their charges were known as packages or freight. Even at the height of the Underground Railroad, fewer than 1,000 slaves from all slave-holding states were able to escape each year. The journey was often considered particularly difficult and dangerous for women or children, yet many still participated. In fact, one of the most famous and successful abductors was a woman, Harriet Tubman.
And there is a record about there being conductors on the Underground Railroad in Dr. Burton's book, Mysteries of the Underground Railroad and the Daughters of Jerusalem. In this book, it talks about them conducting people to another safe house and being fed and clothed here. And that was according to their daughter, Cornelia. When we did an archaeological dig with Wittenberg University, we found about 700 pieces of different artifacts, we could call them. There was dishes, there were bottles that had medicine in them, there were pieces of dishes, we found horseshoes, we found spoons, we found coins of 1862.
To reduce the risk of infiltration, many people associated with the Underground Railroad knew only their part. The conductor would direct the runaways to the north. Slaves would travel at night, about 10 to 20 miles to each station. The stations were out-of-the-way places like barns. While resting at one station, a message was sent to the next station to let the station master know the runaways were on their way.
Originally, it looked like any 1940s home, and it was divided into two sides. It actually was a double house. People lived on both sides. The house had 4 chimneys on it. It has 2 fireplaces. There was a stove in 2 rooms and one in the back room. The brick is home-fired brick, so it would have been fired on the premises. The house's foundation is Ohio limestone. As you can see, there's plaster on the walls, and this is the original plaster. We will have to do some more plastering in here because there's exposed brick. The carpenters couldn't believe that this house had not settled so much that they had to make adjustments. It was perfectly level. So evidently George was a very good builder. He was what they call a sawyer, which is a carpenter, and he was also a drayman. So he probably had horses and wagons for delivery. His wife, I think, was exceptional in the sense that women didn't always have businesses back then, but she did. She is on record in the city directories as a laundress.
Claims have arisen that quilt designs were used to signal and direct slaves to escape routes and assistance. The quilts were placed one at a time on a fence as a means of nonverbal communication to alert escaping slaves. The code had a dual meaning. First, to signal slaves to prepare to escape, and second, to give clues and indicate directions on the journey.